What you're seeing on screen here is the best Phantom in all of War Thunder right now, and probably for the foreseeable future. This is the F4 Phantom Kurnass, maybe it's the F4E Kurnass, I'm not really sure. Either way, it's an Israeli Phantom that has been upgraded drastically compared to that of the American Phantoms. It carries 4 AIM-9Ls and 4 AIM-7F Sparrows, and it has the F-16 radar. I don't think it's supposed to have an F-16 radar. I think it's supposed to be a little bit better than the F-16's radar, but the one we have right now is modeled exactly like the F-16's. I think the name might even be different, but just take my word for it, it is modeled the same as the F-16's radar. And that of course means that it shares the same radar capabilities as the F4 Kai, the Japanese Phantom. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now that this thing basically is an F4 Kai, except it has the Agile Eagle maneuvering slats that help it be a little bit more maneuverable and turn a little bit harder. Before we get into the rest of the video, quick thank you to my patrons. You guys are huge support to the channel, really appreciate you. So of course, gotta shout them out. Thank you guys a lot. But as I was saying, this is an F4 Kai, but it flies like an F4E instead. Pretty damn fun. I used to kind of always like the F4E back in the day, but it's obviously been power crept pretty hard these days. But having the new weapon capabilities of the F4 Kai while still having the F4E flight model, I just think it's pretty fun. It's not the tip of the spear competitive. Obviously, the big three of top tier is still going to be the F-16, the MiG-29, and the F-14. There's basically no point in playing anything other than those three as far as like if you're trying to be competitive and try hard, but either way, this plane is still some good fun, I think, and you'll probably enjoy it. However, the other option is you can play the F-16, and the F-16 in my opinion is better, but the F-16 in the Israeli tree doesn't have Sparrows, and it doesn't have, you know, Fox 1 radar capability. So you could make the argument that this is overall the more effective plane, and I wouldn't really argue with you. I think that's a fair opinion to have, but me personally, I would still just rather be in the F-16 with 6 9Ls. There is one thing that I want to emphasize in this footage right here. Did you notice how I locked that guy up on ACM? I used that taller mode of the ACM, and since it extends above my nose, the lock section, that means that I can be turning and pulling into somebody and lock them up before my nose even fully swings around. That means I'm going to be able to get my missile off a lot quicker that way and be ready to shoot it a lot faster. This, believe it or not, can actually really come in handy in a 1 versus 1 jousting match where you're both getting ready to shoot missiles at each other at the same time, and you're kind of maneuvering your way into a position to actually be able to do so. Also, just look at this missile shot here. Really impressive stuff by this radar. He's basically notching me, but I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm looking directly down at him against the ground. My missile, my radar continues tracking him, and I still manage to hit him, despite him, in theory, really could have been notching me right there. I fly between the buildings to avoid the F4 Kai. It managed to be successful, I guess, because he ends up shooting at somebody else and not me, but my missile somewhere along the line gets confused and doesn't hit him, so I'm just going to turn around and look for a new target. Maybe I can get a 9L off on him, which I think I try, and then it just ends up running into a building, which you probably could have guessed happens anyways, but, you know, I'm just getting greedy. I want to kill. Unfortunately, it ain't going to happen that way. While I'm watching my missile hit the building and simulate George Bush, there is an F-16 that flies right by me, and I don't actually do anything about it, which is a real shame, but it's not like it's going to cost me the game or anything. The EJ Kai is now turning around to try to be more offensive, which just lets me lock him up with the 7F. Unfortunately, though, pulse Doppler, for some reason, the 7Fs will still go for chaff, even if your radar isn't pulse Doppler, and it happens pretty frequently, at least compared to what it used to do. This change happened probably 2 or 3 patches ago, I want to say, and it hasn't been switched back since. I don't know if it's realistic or not, but that's just not how it used to be. EJ Kai suffers from short-term memory loss. He forgets that I'm right behind him. We get a kill with a 9L, and then an F4S shoots a Sparrow at me, and I'm able to just already be 90 degrees basically, and we chaff that away pretty easily. I think I remember seeing a couple targets over here, so I'm going to go ahead and go looking for them. I do find them. Spoiler alert, I die because I tried to joust 2 people at once, but I do end up getting one in the end, so that's kind of cool. It's an F-14, and it's actually 2 F-14s. I go for the high one, we get him with the guns, and then, well, Yeah, I end up eating a sparrow because it just really isn't smart to go head on with two F-14s. I didn't think they'd be shooting at me though, and then they did, so unlucky. What are we looking at on screen right now? We're looking at me already being locked up by RWR, and I'm going to try to see if I can get a missile off anyways. That's going to be unsuccessful, and since I've been getting locked for so long, it's probably pretty likely that there's a Phoenix or something in the air flying toward me right now, so I'm just going to say I give up, because even if I do get my missile off, I'm going to have to continue flying that direction to guide it in, which means that whoever's locking me right now is probably going to end up killing me, even if I do get my kill in the end. So, screw that, I don't want to die. We're just going to turn around, fly toward the teammates, let whoever's locking me lock somebody else or forget about me, whatever it may be, and then I'm going to turn in a little bit later. I would like to point out real quick that just look how not fast this plane is. I held it in a straight line for a pretty good amount of time there and only got up to Mach 1.05. There's a lot of planes that would have been accelerating into Mach 1.1 to 1.15 in that amount of time, but the F4 is just not capable of it, and more often than not, you're probably actually going to be in the Mach 0.9 area. Very rarely are you going to be holding supersonic for any length of time in this thing, which is okay. You just have to make sure you don't get too much slower than that. I'm looking for targets in the clouds right now, so I'm 100% reliant on the radar. I only know that they're there because they were spotted a couple of seconds ago, I think, at least anyway. And now I'm just trying to lock somebody up. I have locked them up, although he's flying in the wrong direction, so probably not a great idea to shoot at him. But then I see a missile fly in from a weird direction at my teammate. It is, of course, a tornado. The tornado is a miserable plane. We've already covered this, and he's just going to die because that's all the tornado is good at doing. You tornado sympathizers, or whatever the hell you call yourselves, in the comments can cope, because that tornado is going back to hangar just like all the other ones. If I had to guess, he probably didn't even see me on radar, because that plane's radar is so abysmal that even if he had seen me, he probably wasn't able to actually hold a lock on me, if he had. Anyways, rant over. I've got an F4S right in front of me, as well as a cluster of enemies off a little bit further to my left. The F4S, I'm just going to leave alone. I'm not really that worried about the F4S. He's not really doing anything right now. However, the cluster of enemies off to the left are engaged with a couple of my teammates, and I'd like to try to preserve my teammates if I can. And that is a lot of them, a lot of opportunities to maybe get an AIM-7F shot off. However, I want to try to be a little bit more stealthy. I don't want them to know I'm shooting at them. They're probably preoccupied anyways, so I'm going to shoot off some 9Ls and see if any of those hit. Unfortunately, one of the targets dies before my 9L gets there, and then the other guy I shot at did end up seeing me. But I get the lock off first on this F-16. He doesn't really do much to defend himself. He was kind of slow anyways. And then I get him with the 7F. You would see me switch to that tall ACM mode, see how I can lock him up before my nose is even pointed at him. I get my missile off first because of that, and there's nothing he can do at that point. Even if he fired at me, it'd have just been too late, because since I got locked onto him way sooner than he locked onto me, or was even able to try to lock onto me, my missile was just going to hit him first every single time. So I just want to emphasize the use of that taller ACM mode and show you how it actually is kind of nice to have and will give you an edge in a considerable amount of situations. The 9L spam from that F-16 is real. We're just going to flare them all away, because the 9L is really not that flare resistant anymore. And then my teammates are going to end up cleaning him up. I'm going to try to steal the kill, of course, but that's not going to work. He's going to die before then, and that's the game. So overall, the Kurnass is just an F4 EJ Kai with the F4E maneuverability. It's pretty fun to play, but nothing new or nothing special. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later.